So, Coté, you and I both attend a lot of conferences. Well, really, we speak at a lot of conferences. Therefore, we attend a lot of conferences. I haven't attended one that I haven't spoken at in quite a long time. But the question here is, have you ever organized a conference?
No.
Just flat no. Why not?
Well, Whitney, I aspire to give simple answers, and then I give complicated ones.
You've never given a simple answer in your life.
No. I've helped other people who are organizing a conference, but I have not organized a conference. So it just seems like a lot of work and not really, I don't mean this in a judgmental way. Like, it's not the type of work I like to do. And so I'm shitty at it, and I would be terrible. Like, I can barely, like, when it comes to talking with people, having a plan of what needs to happen, evaluating if it's done properly, and giving feedback to other people that they need to do a better job. I'm terrible at all of that, among other things. And so I feel like a lot of organizing an event, not all of it, but a lot of it is kind of some of that stuff. And I don't even really like planning a birthday party.
I relate to all of that. That's like, similarly, I'm not interested in being a manager at all, like a people manager.
Yeah.
But I think part of it for me is that I spent like my 10 years as a wedding photographer, and it's very much like people managing, and here's a timeline. And if you want success, then we need to have this much time, and these people need to be in this place. And if not, it's not my fault, and I'm covering my butt. And I think I just did that. I'm burnt out on that. And I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But I ask you because our guest today, among other things, has done a lot of conference organizing, and I think community organization in general. And I'm interested in Coté and I are talking about what's bad about conference organizing. What's good about conference organizing? What benefits do you get as an individual who organizes conferences?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I am.
I don't want to jump in at the wrong time. Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't really thought about it in a long time because it's not something so DevOps Days Denver is the first one probably that I was really, really involved in. And maybe kind of kicked off the conversation, approached some of the other people that were already involved with DevOps Denver, like a meetup that was going on. And so that's probably like the biggest one. And then there's, of course, my time at VictorOps. We had put on some different things around the country that we called the DevOps Road Trip. They were kind of like mini one-day events all over the place. And then when I left VictorOps and went over to Microsoft, I started getting involved with their little global tour stuff, which involved all kinds of different type of planning and everything. So I would say through all that, the best thing about the whole thing is, you meet so many people, you kind of grow your network, and you just get to know other folks in your industry, or, just not just like in developer relations, but also just, the folks like we kind of like talk to, the SREs, the ops types of people, just really getting to connect with them in a more deeper level than you can't, otherwise, like through the screens. That to me is the best part of it, the real human element, the relations part of it, of developer relations. The other stuff that Coté's referring to, getting people together, it's like herding cats, and going through CFPs and trying to pick out the right ones for your program to make sure it's what's best for your community, and it's also not just another replica of some other event that's happening in a different part of the world. So there's a lot of logistical challenges too. I enjoy some of those, but I also enjoy really getting people to kind of come together and swarm on stuff like that more than I enjoy tackling them myself. Okay. And I think that's where really my sweet spot has always been, is like, just like a lot of us in this type of work, is we're just, we're connectors, and we like getting people together and working together on stuff on like a singular mission. And, that's the takeaway. That's what kind of kept me going for a long time. And then pandemic really was, I'd have to say, the biggest thing that really turned things in a different direction that I haven't completely recovered from. That and just kind of growing out of the desire to be on the road all the time, and life just changes a little bit.
So I have follow-up questions, but before I get to that, will you introduce yourself? Say who you are and what you do? Yeah.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. My name is Jason Hand, and I am at Datadog, one of the senior cloud advocates over there, focusing lately a lot on AI, but my background is SRE and DevOps and, sort of that IT ops world. So these days, AI has pretty much worked its way into every conversation, everything that we do, and it's hard to avoid it. So I think to say, I'm just like an advocate for AI stuff, I think we all have to be at this point. I don't know if that's really what I'm doing. I'm still a developer advocate, but there's like a whole new thing out there that we have to, in my mind, as advocates, we have to help figure out and then kind of turn around and pass along to others. That's what some of the projects I've been working on is really just like, we're kind of forced to be the tip of the spear on figuring some things out, and then turn around and helping developers, really advocating for their needs. And times are weird.
Yeah. No matter what the trend is, that part of advocacy is to be the tip of the spear and turn around and help others figure it out. Do you agree with that?
Really? Yeah, at the heart of it for sure. I hear people talking about, what different versions of what advocacy means. And of course that's, a lot of that just comes down to where you work and, what size of company you're in. Advocacy as startups is going to be something very different than what we have over at Datadog. Which is probably different than what we had, some of the other places I was at. So we're in a very privileged place where we can take more of a advocate for the developer, more of just like the common person, advocating back into Datadog on like what they should do to make their product better and to just be better like stewards of the community. But there's other people out there who really have more of a, they advocating for whatever their product is or whatever like best practices that sort of serve their product.
Yeah.
That's sort of a different flavor of advocacy. And, lots of people do that. I'm not drawn to that in terms of like the type of work that I like to do, but obviously we're very, public facing people. That's just part of the job. So, it gets to be a very gray area, in terms of, it really just comes down to what your incentives are and what you're going to be motivated on. But I'm thankful that a lot of the things we get to work on is pretty focused on just helping developers, genuinely.
As part of in-person events, you briefly mentioned, of course, the pandemic has affected those in a way that you haven't recovered from, or maybe the community hasn't recovered from. Will you say more about how in-person events are different now than they were pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I think pre-pandemic, I think a lot of it had to do too with just the money that was flowing around. It was really easy to get sponsorships. And so a lot of our events were starting to grow, and we had access to better equipment. And, I think our pool of speakers, we just had a lot of really great people. Coté, is a great prime example of folks that, would travel around and go to these conferences and just delivered, great talk after great talk. And I think a lot of the people who were doing it at the time have sort of backed off and have been replaced by new folks. And there's just not as much, I don't know, sort of like passing of the baton. I think to me, I just sort of like backed into the bushes really and just said, I'm kind of cool with not doing as much. But that's also how I've treated like, social media in general.
Yeah, I relate. I wonder about AI and how it affects like in-person gatherings. Cause I don't know if it's because of AI or because I'm just like in a new phase of my life. Like lately I've been so much more attracted to like, I want to go to my monthly Kubernetes meetup more than I want to go to a bigger scale conference, or I love my square dancing that I go to each week, or even my one little bit of social media I consume is micro.blog, who we had on earlier. And I'm just craving like a quiet, I do want community, but I want I want meaningful connection.
Yeah.
And do you think that's in direct contrast to the explosion of AI?
Well, I don't know if it's taking place in contrast. I don't know if they're directly, if there's like a correlation there, but I mean, exactly what you're describing is happening out there. I can say a lot of the folks here in our area, I live just outside of Boulder, kind of Denver area, near the mountains. And a lot of the folks who, I was organizing DevOps Days Denver with, they're still, at various levels of involved with the local community. And some of them have spun off their own little group, their own little meetup, although they don't use the meetup.com tool, but just like a whole, kind of different group where they go off into the mountains for, 3 or 4 days and have a number of Starlink setups that they hook up, and they basically just work from the mountains and collaborate and talk to each other and just like bang ideas off of each other and just, kind of have that local community away from everybody, really, like literally in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, but still be like getting great Wi-Fi and doing their day jobs with Zoom meetings and everything else. So I love that.
I join this group.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the internet commune.
Just, come out there with your tent, or, folks have vans, camper vans and different things. The one sort of requirement is they will go to places that it does require some 4-wheel drive and, kind of a lifted vehicle to get to. So it's I guess a little exclusive in that it's not easy to get to the event, but outside of that, everybody's welcome.
Yeah. If you can get a Subaru, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I've actually read something about like communities that thrive. There's often is, intentionally or unintentionally, some little barrier you have to cross, like some amount of effort you have to put in to be accepted, to show that you're interested enough in the community to be accepted in the community. And not as a mean thing. Like in square dancing, for example, there are like 52 different square dancing moves I need to know. And I had to go through like 3 months of weekly classes to learn these moves so that I was allowed to go to the Austin Senior Center to the square dancing club.
It's like paying for a Costco membership. It shows you're dedicated.
The barrier to entry does make the connection, I think, a little more meaningful.
Yeah. And I think too that, at least in the example I just described, that there's a lot of folks who are realizing that there's overlap in our interests beyond DevOps per se, for example. And also, as far as I can tell, like we've sort of solved a lot of the DevOps, things, but we're still friends, we want to hang out and like do things, and we're all still, doing this type of work. It's just that we have different challenges, and instead of trying to find a sponsor to help, subsidize a meetup account, to, finding space, to paying for pizza and beer, and like some of us don't want to do any of that anymore. We just want to get together and nerd out on stuff. And, I that's what more I'm sort of drawn to, but I think it's a little harder to find, because we're not using some of the tools that, used to be a lot more accessible, I think, for communities. I think that's a big part of it too, is like the tooling is just not what it was.
Yeah. There's not a lot of free tasteful ways to organize online anymore.
Not like there was.
There's still like I haven't done a thorough study of it, but there's still like more DevOpsy tech people around on Twitter than like I would have thought, given all of the people who talk about not being on there. But then you got all these other networks, whatever. It's a common refrain of people our age to be like, we used to all be on Twitter. It was wonderful. But it does have the knock-on effect of like, there's 5, 6 places to go to self-organize where there used to be basically one that you could do things with. And which I don't know how, maybe I need to go run off into the mountains with a Starlink, but like, I don't know how the kids self-organize nowadays. They probably, what do they DM each other on Instagram or something? Like, I have no idea what they do.
I was kind of,
Go ahead.
Myself, when we're talking about like, not winning the pizza and beer meetup anymore. Like, is that just because we 3 people who have been, are of a certain age have aged out of it and there's still people doing it somewhere? Or is it just like in general, people are less interested in that type of meetup?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I know that my desire to commute 45 minutes into Denver or maybe more, depending on the time, deal with parking, to then go put on like another, level of like socializing that, who knows where my gas tank is, my internal gas tank is at that point. I just don't, I'm not driven to like go do those like I once was. Some of it's age and some of it's just like they're not as useful for me. Like once upon a time, I hate to say it, like I needed those meetups personally, professionally. Like it was something that helped me get to where I am now. And regardless of if I feel like they're useful anymore, I'm kind of in more of the other side where I have to be the teacher. And so, but I also have to like, as I'm finding, really protect my energy and my just overall emotional gas tank. And otherwise I'm useless to to everybody, I guess. But I protect my personal time, I think, is the biggest part of it. Like it's hard to get me out the door to go do something unless I play a lot of music. So like that's kind of the one thing that you can kind of like send me a text and say, hey, you want to come do this? I'll jump on that. But otherwise I'm a homebody these days.
I relate to that, especially with the short days of winter. It's like, oh, it's dark outside. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So what have you in the prime years of your life that you're in now, as you've been floating around in the prime years, what have you discovered about this energy management? Like I'm from what you're saying, it seems like maybe it used to be different, and now you're like, I got to pay attention to that. Like, what is all that?
Right. Yeah, I think we've all probably experienced some level of extreme fatigue or even burnout with the type of work that involves a lot of travel and just like being on all the time, including social media. And when you work for a global company, it's hard to turn off things. And I've had to hit just harder and more firm boundaries, I guess, with myself in things like I don't put really any work stuff on my phone. Unless I'm, going to be like traveling at an event, like it's just going to make something life easier at a specific thing. I'll consider it then. But otherwise, I sort of have to protect my mental, health a little bit, because I've learned that, I might find myself on a Saturday bored and I'll glance at my phone and see there's a note in there that, somebody left on Friday before I saw it. And next thing I know, 3 hours have passed and I'm working. And I've learned that I can't really just stop doing that in the moment as easy as I can just put up some guardrails to like, just don't let me get there in the first place. And maybe that's just like maturity, because that seems to be happening in a lot of places in my life where I'm just like, oh, that kind of worked to keep me from doing something I know I'll regret. Such as like going out to concerts or something on a school night, like at midnight. Like I just can't do that anymore. I need like a full day to recover, even if I didn't drink a beer. So yeah, I think it's just learning things to protect your mental health and your physical also too. If you can, I'm also pretty privileged too about that too.
You need like enterprise screen time. That's the what you like flip my screen time controls around so I can goof off, but I can't be responsible. That could work. That could work too. I find myself on the computer often. On the weekends, and it's kind of the same deal there. Like if I'm not careful, I'll just drift over onto the work laptop. So I have to have other machines to go tinker around on. I have a monkey mind that just sometimes won't stop thinking about a problem. And if it's a work related problem and I'm not doing anything else, why not just go fix it? So anyway, I try to just be a little healthier around stuff like that, I think is my best advice. And then I think scurrying around that is that whatever. And in a week period of time, there must be like a finite amount of energy that you have to spend, right? And so like if you spend that 3 hours, which turns into 6 hours on a Saturday doing something, then like the accounting has to take that out of some other time. So it doesn't really like spread like it used to.
Yeah, and that's another good point.
Or maybe
too,
it never spread that way. It just maybe when you're younger, you're so goofy and gangly that it seems like you're successfully spreading, but you're just screwing up all over the place anyway. So it doesn't really matter. It kind of evens out.
It's like screw up management or time management. It's just like figuring out how to balance everything out better as you get older. And I so my schedule it just works out that Tuesdays and Thursdays I often will have later calls in the evening with like someone from Singapore or just like a different time zone where it's still super early for them. Anyway, so I often shift my schedule around. And then I do what I can to kind of block off the last hour or so on either a Monday or Wednesday to, sort of budget that back out for myself. So those are other things that I didn't used to do. You know what I mean? Like I would just, get online when I get online and get offline. Basically, I just move things onto my phone if I had to step away from the desk, and then I just keep on going. And turns out you can't do that forever.
It's like being at an all-you-can-eat buffet. It just eventually doesn't turn out well. It's terrible.
Yeah, it just seeps into vacation and it's just everywhere.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, like you had like two types of advocacy. You had the advocating for the external people, the developer, whoever it is the company is doing business with, so to speak, and then you have advocating. Well, no, wait. You have advocating for the developers, internal facing, and then you have advocating for the company, external facing. Right? If I have that correct. Now, let me see if I got the order correctly. The first one, so where you're kind of, I assume, kind of going to product, maybe also marketing, but you're going to the company and saying like, hey, we'll use developers here, but you could do the same for like operations people or whatever. But like, so the developers, this is how it is with them. Like here's some stuff you could do to help them. So you're another like feedback channel into, well, you tell me where it goes to, but I'll just say probably at least something that's like product management. Whoever's selecting the features that go in what order and the ones that don't.
Yep.
Product managers do more than that, but whatever. And is that seems like, maybe this is just my own history, but that seems like a difficult situation for a DevRel person to get into and sustain. Like, and so like, how do you, as the advocating for the developers role, how do you like establish that and then keep it going over time?
Well, and I think you got the description correct. And because the other way, when you come around from the other way, sometimes I feel like that's not really advocacy as much as that's like advertising. And that's something that needs to happen. Like you have to tell the public about your product, right? And that's fine. Like that's a role. It's especially for younger startups, that kind of thing. But once an organization and even some of the individuals within an organization get to a place where they don't, that's not necessarily the motivation and that's not the incentives. It's really to keep a healthy community of folks who, know about Datadog, maybe use Datadog in their day-to-day, but they're just kind of like part of, what we all do and think about and worry about. That's our community. And if we can, play more of the role of like, we are one of them, we're like an embed, and then bring that information back to really anyone within Datadog, product teams for sure. And each of us have our own relationships with various people within product. I meet with lots of different teams across a few different products just because I'm interested and there's, just kind of lots going on. And they do care about what we have to say and ask for our input on what we think is going on in the community. And, we do our best to like play that role, that proxy, but it's also not necessarily something that's very easily measurable. So we're not really held to account of like, do X number of those.
Right. You've generated so many features in this period of time or whatever. Yeah.
But it's, when push comes to shove, I think it's pretty clear the relationships we have with product is influential in a positive way. Even if it's just sort of like bringing them back to reality about a situation. Sometimes they're driven by something and blinded by an incentive that just doesn't make sense with like what we're hearing, and we have to be that voice of reason and be like, not a bad idea, but maybe consider this. So, and then also not every person that we, engage with is, they're always open to our feedback, but there's various, I would say, like it's a spectrum of how open they are to,
how willing they are to make it actionable.
Yeah. To go beyond, thank you for the feedback. It's more like, well, I'm going to follow up, something like that. So yeah, it's a relations role, right? Like, again, we're sort of playing that like middle person conversation, and also developing our own relationships with the product folks. And I don't, when I say advertising is more of what the other thing looks like, we also do a lot of work with our marketing teams and our sales teams. So there's, it's all intertwined. I think it just kind of comes down to one of the things that I think you were kind of alluding to is like, how do you measure that? How do you be making sure you're doing the things that you say are important in terms of feedback? So like I said, there's no dashboard for that kind of thing, but it is something we keep track of, and it shows up in our conversations.
So you're talking a lot about your personal experience as a developer advocate at Datadog in particular, which is awesome. But I'm curious too. I know you are a host of a podcast, a co-host of a podcast called Community Pulse. And tell us about that podcast, please.
Yeah. So the Community Pulse is a podcast on the subject of developer relations and building communities within the realm of IT or just within the realm of tech, I would say. And we just celebrated our 10th anniversary this September. And
very cool.
And it was 100. Also turned out, just ironically, that we were getting close to the 100th episode around the 10th anniversary. So we kind of like squeezed 2 in real quick to get the math right. But we had our 100th episode and had the guest that we had on for the very first episode, Jonah Bacon, who's somebody that's been in the communities space for a while too. He was our very first guest, and we brought him back for this one. So yeah, it's been going on for 10 years now, like I said, and we get with guests, very similar to format to what we're doing here, and just talk shop about developer relations and what's going on in the community building space, all kinds of things.
How has being a host of that show changed you?
It's made me feel, I would say it's changed over time. Early, even going back and watching that first episode with myself and Jono and my other host, Mary, you could just see, I could just see in our eyes. First of all, we were babies, it was like 10 years ago, but I could just see to my eyes that I was hungry for knowledge, and I wanted to talk to these folks. And that's why we started this show is I needed to learn. This was my first time in developer relations. I had been an ops person. I had been on call. I'd felt that pain, and that's why. And then I also knew how to like stand on stage and talk to people with a microphone because I used to play music. And somebody in my circle was like, I think you would make for a good developer relations person because you're technical. You can just talk to people. Like, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm kind of tired of being on call. I'll go tell people how bad it sucks. And that was their like slogan. I was like, I'm in. So anyway, it was a shift in career, and I was like, I don't want to go back to that other world. I love this. So I really wanted to learn from the best. And that's been sort of the like thread that I think has been this, going through the whole thing, is just try to invite on people that I want to learn from and let the conversations just go from there. And, and then put them in sort of my circle of trust, with each other. Like, hey, that was awesome. Learned a ton from you. If there's anything I can do, just so that's been sort of the arc, I would say.
So that's your motivation, which I enjoyed hearing about. But the question is, how did it change you?
Oh, well, from those early feelings to now, I'm kind of the other way, where I feel more of like I have to play the person who turns around more and be the mentor, even though I still have to explore the answers. I like it or not, all of us, I feel, we're the adults in the room now, and it sort of sucks, but like we are the ones who probably are best suited for figuring out a lot of this stuff. And I don't want to just sit on the sidelines and not do anything, especially if I'm going to sit there and stew on like my own internal feelings of like they're doing it wrong. So yeah, I think it's made me feel like I have to take a little bit more of a proactive role in things. Like within Datadog is a good example. Like I love being an individual contributor, but I also feel like it's important for me to not just go off and do my own thing, and just be like quiet about my work and just like deliver on results. Like I kind of need to, sort of share ideas with other people and help them grow and just turn more into more of a mentor type of thing.
That's very cool. So, what's an episode that you've had recently that you found to be extra impactful or extra interesting?
I don't know if there's a for sure specific one. I feel like this whole last year, almost all of our episodes have gotten more serious. I would say, like, just trying to tackle a little bit more harder questions. Talking about layoffs is always a big thing, and just the general kind of what I was alluding to earlier, just sort of this like split in mind share of like what is developer relations and what is advocacy, and like you see it in multiple forms now, and who is it to anybody to say that's right or wrong. They're just different ways, but at the same time there's people trying to establish like best practices and teach others, and you see those splits. And so I don't know, I feel like I again just can't be completely silent and complacent and be like, it is what it is, because I want to see people succeed. And there's a lot of people who are new to this field who also want to succeed. And I think we owe it to them to, share what we can.
So what do you think the baseline, success is even too strong of a word, but the baseline for starting and sustaining like a DevRel thing is like, and I don't know exactly what I mean by baseline, but as an extreme case, sort of like, I don't know if there's like mainframe DevRel people. Like there could be, but there's not a lot of them. And so there's something that industry doesn't have as a baseline, compared to, I mean, there's probably more DevRel people at Datadog than there is for the entire mainframe industry, right? And so like, there's something like, what is that? Like, what does a community, or let's just say an organization, a company need before DevRel will work, will like do something? Yeah.
I think, like mainframes, I'm thinking of like COBOL and all these like old school stuff that there's just nobody who even remembers how to do any of that, like to advocate for what the developers are going through. I don't know enough about that kind of world to feel educated enough to say, here's what you should or shouldn't do. But when it comes, so I have this hunch that SaaS is shifting gears. Like through AI, it's just become more realistic and easier and common to roll your own stuff, and like I think they're going to see like people kind of pivoting away from paying for tools when I can just go vibe code this over the weekend. I'm doing that, and I think we'll see more of that. So predicting the future just feels dangerous. It's a huge foot gun right there. But I think following the wind, I guess, is kind of the best metaphor I can think of right now in terms of what are, I'm assuming, I know Whitney has done some, but Coté, have you like done any kind of vibe coding or just like sat down and
I got all the vibes.
Okay. So you've got like just a cemetery of side projects, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, but all of those, you were experimenting, and you eventually got to a point probably where like, if I put some little effort into this, I could turn this into something. And I think that's going to be a more like explosion of those types of stuff happening where people are taking it to the next level. They don't know necessarily what to do, because I'm seeing this firsthand. Once they get to a certain level of like, okay, well, now I'd like to know how many people are using my thing, but also I'm recognizing maybe some problems with the platform I just vibe coded it on. So I got to move it off over to somewhere else, which means now I got this whole other, can of worms with observability, and like they start unfolding, other things. And so it's fun to see people like rush to this new scenario with like, yay, awesome, I can build cool stuff. And then hitting this like harsh reality of, well, now if I want to take it to the next level though, AI is not quite able to just like do all that. So all of that's probably like a really long-winded way of saying like in my opinion, the best thing is to sort of follow your own like instincts of the problems you're trying to solve and what it is you like vibe code together or just go out and find solutions for. And that's probably where, the most, if you think of it in like the, picks and shovels type of metaphor, like let's go to where the gold, is, and instead of picking the gold ourselves, let's just sell shovels. I think that's the place to go.
Like if you're following your own interest and your own experience, you're not living in a vacuum. Like other people are probably going to be interested in whatever it is you're doing and talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it'd be good advice to say to anybody to like get into developer relations because it's a fun job or it's good money or it's, it's whatever. It's like you actually enjoy doing the type of work, therefore you will enjoy the work. Like you know what I mean? Like you don't just go do it, and because who knows where you'll end up. And so like, I think that's also another piece of advice that I may never would have realized until I got to where I am now is like, somebody wants to be in DevRel, I'm all for you. I'm here to help you, advocate for you to figure that out. But you should realize like, you're advocating basically for who you are as a human and as a developer. Like you are now that advocating for this you. So like, what do you care about? That's what you have to follow.
You said something, and this is another kind of maybe at an individual level, like a baseline thing. But you said something that I think most all people in a DevRel people say in a kind of an aw shucks way. They're like, and I could talk to people, right? And like that seems like. Well, I guess that's the relations. Well, not really, but like that seems like if you don't have that, there is no future in DevRel for you. Like you need this, like as much as I think all of us kind of just downplay it and are a little dismissive of it. I mean, I don't know if I've ever come across someone in DevRel who's like, I'm really good at talking to people and I give excellent talks. I'm a fantastic communicator without like some kind of dripping irony as they're saying it. Although maybe there are some people, I don't know. Maybe I self-select and don't run into them, but it seems like that is at an individual level. If you don't have that, you're out.
I think it helps to enjoy conversation and enjoy getting to know people, because that's a big part of the problem, or a big part of the job, is like being empathetic, truly empathetic, not just like taking notes on like what people are saying, but like actually being, oh man, I know
not
exactly
like studying them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not just like reporting on you. So I think being able to, like that's like key right there. And then I don't know, like I can think of a lot of folks who just weren't, they're super smart and they're perfect for it. There's trade-offs, like even if you don't love talking, there's like another area somewhere that you can kind of excel in and sort of like shift some of your focus, I think. But a lot of that has to do with where you're working. If you're like at a startup or a smaller company, you end up wearing a lot of hats. And so you kind of have to be able to pull off multiple things. But you get to other companies and you can sort of maybe back away from the public life a little bit and focus on tooling for your team. To me, that's all still important developer relations stuff, but it might not be what people first think about. It's not that like I'm on stage and I'm telling you best practices and let's chat after at the bar. Like I don't need that necessarily as a model of what I think developer relations is, although it was a part of it, or is a part of it, and was a big part of what I do. I've sort of realized now, like at some level at the bigger companies, like none of this works if we all just like go off to conferences. Like there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen behind the scenes. And I've kind of been more interested and drawn towards that, like creating the tooling and like helping out with the
lattice for everything. Process.
Getting the stuff to all work together. It's just part of like getting pulled into the corporate world. Like it's chaotic unless somebody like steps in and does something about it. So
right. Otherwise, there's just like piles of DevRel everywhere that don't really like connect together. So
and no accountability.
And so I'll like in the, let's see, you've had a DevRel position at 3 places, or is it 4?
Technically, it would have been 4 because I was at VictorOps when they were acquired by Splunk.
Okay. Right.
For a very, very short amount of time.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was wondering as I was thinking about talking with you, what happened to VictorOps, but that's right. There they go. They
They had a nice exit. Yep.
Yeah. So over the course of that 10 years and the, let's call it 3.5 DevRel places you worked, like have you learned or witnessed, like, how do you like tell someone they shouldn't be doing DevRel? Like, does it come up where people like try to get into that job and then they're like, ooh, I had to tell them, no, like no good. Like you've been here 6 months. Maybe you should work in alliances instead, or how about product or like something like that. Does that ever come up? And then if it does, how does that go?
I don't think I've ever come across anybody that I've had to give them that type of feedback. I think there's been lots of new people. In fact, we've at Datadog been hiring a lot of people that are new to our DevRel team, to our advocacy team, who've maybe come from a systems architect background, but they're already very like active in their community, or, sort of like in the local community. They've, sort of popped up on our radar or something in other places, and they're already doing the job without doing the job, and I think those are folks that we like to talk to, more so than just somebody who's technical that, like I said, just wants to get into the job because it looks to them like a certain type of thing, like they want to be traveling and going to conferences.
Yeah.
I haven't run across anybody I've given that advice to, but I will say, like, in our interviewing process or in the different various interviews I've been involved with over the years, in my own personal philosophy, it kind of comes back to that. Are you really an advocate? Are you wanting to be an advocate for the developer at large, like that, or whatever persona that you personally identify with?
Right.
Whitney speaks at a lot of Kubernetes conferences. Like clearly, like that's a passionate part of it. I used to speak at a lot of DevOps conferences. Same deal. And I think if you don't have that thing that you like want to go advocate about with kind of the angle of the developer, then you don't have really something to pull from. You don't have like the
right
well of like pain. It's like we have to have this like shared trauma, I guess, is maybe like the best way to put it, to really connect in some ways. And if you don't have that shared trauma yet, it's going to be difficult for you to connect with people. Maybe not just shared trauma, but that's part of it.
About something you said a while back, which is you see some SaaS products probably going to the wayside because someone can vibe code something similar. And you said that's happening in your personal life. And I have 2 questions. Like, one is, I want to know an example of where you vibe coded something and then stopped using a product. And then 2 is, do you think this is happening just at an individual level, or do you think this is happening at a company or enterprise level? Because there's a lot of maintenance involved too.
Yeah.
Making your own thing.
Well, in my experience, it's happening in both. In my world, like it's definitely happening in the personal space. I'm, building all kinds of stuff. I think I can come up with like 2 examples of something where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go do this myself. And the first one was I was looking to adopt a kitten. And so I started kind of like browsing the different ways you can online and the different humane societies. And I got to thinking, I wish there was an API that I could just like do, go like write something for. And sure enough, there is. And so I wrote this little API and I bought the domain. It's .ps or .app, I guess. So you got to spell it right. But you can go there and you can filter everything. And that's how I found my cat. I'm kind of expecting her to stroll through here in a second. But so, and there are other tools out there that did that. I think it was Pet Finder's got a tool. And it turns out like that's where the API is coming from. It's from Pet Finder. But Pet Finder was then bought out by like Purina or something. And I think here in like 6 days, they're shutting the API down.
Oh. I
had basically written my own little thing to solve, the problem with Pet Finder is it's just like pet ad. And I was like, I don't want to look at ads all day just to find a cat. So I solved my own problem. Purina came around, they've probably, shut that door for good. Other examples are, I like to get together with my friends when I can, but all of us have really busy schedules, and, Calendly and what's the other one that's real popular when you're trying to get some people. Anyway, there's several tools out there where you can just put in your availability and it'll sort it out for you. I was like, I got to thinking, I think I can do this too. And in a couple hours, I just built my own thing. So if you go to seeyathere.co, I think it was just another tool I put together that's basically intended to do the exact same thing that those tools do, except they won't steal your data. You don't have to look at advertisements, and you don't have to log in with Google. Now, I'm not saying that that's what everybody is doing, but I feel like, I've got several examples of just stuff I was doing for fun to just see if I can do it, just like the developer's mindset is like, just see if you can do this. And it turns out you can. And I'm sure lots of people have come to the same conclusion. Now, I don't know that there are any, companies out there that are feeling threatened necessarily by this, but it's opened up my eyes. Every now and then when I'm like, I wonder if I can go, find a way to solve this problem. Before I even do that, I'll like take a stab at it myself. Whitney, you and I are working on some video for our YouTube channel at Datadog, and I just built a little tool that creates shorts automatically by typing something in the Claude code, and that's like saving me hours. And like I'm in love with that type of work right now. Is just trying to find different ways to make life easier for us because there's so many things to do.
That's very cool. And it ties into what I've been hearing from friends. And besides like the Cloud Code interest, I think the tolerance, the community, the world's tolerance for the enshittified apps that we have to put up with from these huge corporations is like, it's just wearing thin. Like, I can't see another ad. I don't want you to take my data. Like,
exactly. I've had too many times where I was like, I think I got, basically pwned, or like possibly had my accounts compromised. And there's just too many times where I'm like, you don't need my email address for me to figure out what time to go have drinks with my buddy.
And my attention is so valuable. You can't have even a drop of it. I refuse to share it with you. Exactly. Instead, I'm going to give it to Claude Code, who's my best friend.
Your little buddy. Yeah, I like your theory in that. Well, I mean, one, it sounds good, but like, what it's making me think about is, I guess, I don't know, like the last, what would it be, 15 years? The last 10 years of like SaaS as a category, which always seems funny, but like, I guess a lot of them are these little niche applications that do a little bit extra customization on a large platform, like Calendarly, right? Like it's something that, well, I guess in the past year, like Google Calendar actually will do it finally. Like, or I haven't tested it out, but it probably is fine, right? And I guess we use that, Whitney, right?
Yeah.
Where like if you have 3 or more people who want to plan something, it's kind of sorted out now. But this is 2025, so that took till 2024 for like the one of the probably number 2 email thing in the world to do it. Although maybe it's number 1, I don't know. But then if people can like generate their own little niche things, it seems like 2 things happen. One, you need less Calendarly because you can program it yourself. But then maybe also because it's just a one-off in a good way. It's just for like you and, some people that want to use it. You don't need to like have it be more universal and rock solid, right? So you can sort of like, I don't know exactly what constraint is being removed, but it doesn't need to be like mega production ready.
I do not need a whole back end to process some videos for a short, or half the things, definitely, certainly. Oh, it's Doodle is the other tool I was thinking of.
There it is.
So, so that's what that app is. I was like, you don't need my email, and I don't need to risk you losing all my, personal information just for me to like coordinate a happy hour. And also I'm in love with apps now that are not only do they not use that kind of stuff, but the information can be shared, but just in the URL, just using like encoding information in the URL. So that way you can still share the app around with people and have them put their information in and share it around without ever really needing that third-party backend service.
Yeah, like needing to be state somewhere. Right,
Very
right.
cool. So that brings us around to AI Tools Lab and the Datadog Community YouTube channel. Will you tell us about those things, please?
Yeah, love to. The AI Tools Lab is a project that we've started back in April, and it's really the result of trying to put together some tooling to make just the life easier for all of us to put together content, video content, audio, tech, all kinds of stuff. And so, but also, at Datadog, we're encouraged heavily to go out and learn these tools. And I was finding myself every day going and playing with some of the tools that we have internally available to us, but also trying to compare them to some of the other tools that are out there. And it got to where I was like, kind of like what I was saying earlier, like I shouldn't just keep this to myself. Like I need to share this with the others on the team. But then I got to thinking, well, why stop there? Why don't I just put it up on my YouTube channel and, just make it available to everybody? Not that I'm trying to like grow a big subscriber base over there, but it's a platform that's available. So we do that. But then all of a sudden I realized like some of the AI tooling out there that exists makes it super easy to just take a transcript of a video and give you a summary and takeaways and YouTube like chapter markers and like just do all that stuff pretty much automatically now. So it's real easy to just throw up a website that is kind of a landing page for all that same content. And now that's what aitoolslab.com is basically we get on a recording and we talk about some tools that we've been playing with lately and learning things about. And we try to share those observations in about 20-minute videos and put them up on YouTube and then run them through some AI that generates a web page, a landing page for it, and then throw that up as just another sort of companion website to go along with the content.
And so you and co-host Ryan will have different guests on who each spend 10 to 20 minutes talking about a new tool or a new technique AI that they've been playing with. Yeah. And so it's a really cool exploration of all the new AI tooling because there's an explosion of not just tools, but tools in different ways to use tools. And now this product has yet another feature and it's hard to keep track of. So it's really is.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's impossible to keep track of. We're up to episode 60 now, and I feel like we're barely keeping up with things. And you're right, it's Ryan and I don't know exactly how many episodes each of us have done, but I know you yourself have been on a few of them. Several other on the advocacy team have been on. And here very soon, once our tooling kind of enters the next phase, we're hoping to open it up to more people within Datadog and maybe even grow out beyond that. So we're sort of still in this like proof of concept phase, but it's going well and getting a lot of good feedback. So we're going to keep doing it.
So what are like the whatever you want to call it, the bottlenecks, the heavy things, expensive stuff, the constraints in like that exact setup? And I ask because, well, doing like I get my terms mixed up, but doing the basic inference stuff that can be expensive. But then also if you're talking about video is always expensive. You want to do anything with video, it's whatever. So I wonder in this like, so we do a video and we kind of feed it into the magic machine of post-production and it cool stuff comes out. Like what are the big parts of that? Again, by as big as an expensive, takes a long time or like a constraint, like what are the hard parts in that chain?
Yeah. I think no matter what you do, you can't get away from some level of editing. Like there's just, no matter what toolings you're using, there's still going to be some level of editing, like at the beginning or end, or maybe something in the middle. Very minor stuff. Everything I work on, I aim to try to minimize that, like low touch editing. But when you're talking about AI stuff, you're probably going to be feeding AI a transcript of the conversation that was had during the recording, or just, transcript of recording. And current AI models, pretty much all of them can handle summarizing and telling you what happened in that conversation. Some of the newer models from Gemini, I think, are actually supposed to just like be able to read the video itself, and it doesn't even require the transcript. But regardless, I need a very accurate transcript to move on with like sort of the next phase of what I'm working on. And no matter what, it just requires still me, the human in the loop, to pop in there and read the whole transcript from
wow. Okay.
Because the reason is like they still get acronyms wrong. They still get a lot of like the products wrong, like in terms of like how to spell certain things. It's getting better. It's getting better. It does, but I can't trust it yet. So in a 45-minute recording, I have still 45 minutes of reviewing basically to make sure that the transcript is pretty close, even after AI's had its hands on it. So that sucks, but I feel like that'll get better. And then the video editing, Whitney will test too. Like it's like not non-trivial, to like do video editing in general when you want to put out high quality stuff. And shorts, love them or not, like they're just so important now on sort of the social media landscape. And there's lots of tools out there. AI are integrated into them that will like make those shorts for you. It'll even pick out like the right places. And this is another good example of, well, sure, I could go pay for one of these services, or there's some stuff built into the tooling that we have too. But usually when I use them, I'm not that impressed with the output.
Yeah.
And I know enough about, like I've built things with Python and FFmpeg to know like I can do this stuff manually. So what if I just like tell Claude, hey, Claude Code, that is, here's the transcript, here's my Python script, go figure out the best places to like create a short through our whole transcript, and then go run my Python script. And that's exactly what it does. And it just spits out.
Right. Because if you gave it the tools to take like, time code slices and reassemble them, then that should be pretty straightforward. Yeah. The other, I don't know what this kind of effect for trying to automate things is, but I find, or would find, if I was actually, I mean, it would probably take me 60 minutes to go through 45 minutes, if not more, because I would get distracted and then also have to go back and forth, et cetera. But like, if I had to rewatch something I was editing, I would also be finding stuff I wanted to like make shorts out of during it, and then highlighting that. And then that would sort of like obviate the need to have a 70% good short maker further down the chain. But then I get in and now I'm making that. And it's sort of like what seemed like an optimization. Now I'm just like over here video nolling with something.
Yeah.
But if you're there in the transcript correcting it, you find all this stuff. I mean, that's kind of, that is almost like that at least thinking about what I do, that's how I do things. Making myself go back and actually watch the stuff is where all the problems begin.
It really is. Yeah. To me, it starts to feel like that yak shaving that we used to like tell people not to do.
Right.
It's like, is this really the best use of my time? And honestly, like I used to go through the whole thing and do what you said. Like, okay, this looks like a cool, like this is a hot take. Like this is going to be a good one to like, and I'd like mark where I wanted to create those things. And that just, even when I was trying to like converge several things that I'm all doing at once, it just seemed like it was another step that I'm not 100% sure I'm picking the right spots. I've got 45 minutes of content and I am only going to pick a few spots. Is this really the nugget? Because my attention span's not great. Did I forget something about what the conversation covered? I don't know. There's just there's trust issues with my head, I guess. But I know I've had really good results with giving a transcript to an AI and saying, hey, tell me what you think is actually interesting in here. And then like looking at that and being like, you know what, that's a good one. Let's go there. So I'm still very much in the loop, but I don't always take the first pass at figuring out where to cut things.
Do you ever get to the point where the AI is telling you what a good short is, and you're like, I wouldn't watch that, but then you're like, but other people probably would. Like, what do you do in that kind of situation?
Yeah, there's definitely those. There's some stuff I think on paper, because it's just analyzing the transcript, and on paper it sounds like it should be interesting. But a good clip, a good short, isn't just about what was said. You know what I mean? Like there's just other elements to it, and so. I also find that it's, I have it suggest titles and description and hashtags and like, just, tell me everything that's going to really help optimize these things. And sometimes the titles are a little clickbaity. Sometimes the descriptions are a little like not how I would write it. So I got to like go in there and change things. But, in general, I'm of a sort of an experimental mindset for these things. I'm not of this like delusion that anybody's watching these things and being changing their whole developer mindset. But I do think it helps with awareness, and I think it shows some of the talent that we have going on and some of the topics that we like to talk about. And that's
what are some newer topics, AI topics, that have been especially exciting for you lately?
So Claude Code is something that we use a lot at Datadog. And so it's hard to sort of break out of the mentality of Claude Code. But one of the things I've discovered lately is I've got a lot of good stuff, exactly what I was just describing with the YouTube short stuff. All that works with sub-agents, and it's all orchestrated through Markdown. It uses obviously a Python script to do some stuff, but in general, like, you can't do a lot of those things in these other agentic tools. So sub-agents, to me, unlocked a whole new level of like possibilities to like send different things going off and working in parallel. However, the way it's set up in Claude Code is it uses a ton of context, and it also can end up using, just therefore a lot of tokens, and can get expensive. And I've kind of come full circle that maybe multiple sub-agents working in tandem isn't the best approach in every situation. So yeah, I think there's a few things that I've kind of come full circle with, but I do feel like the sub-agents have made things a little easier to orchestrate several things along the way instead of doing your own manual handoffs.
Yeah, I always want something. There probably is a word for it. Maybe it's just sub-agents, but like whatever the equivalent of like bursting or hybrid or multi AI is, and where like, I could host a really shitty AI on my overpowered laptop, and like maybe some stuff just calls out to that instead of like going all the way up to Claude, or like, maybe I have some credits left over here and it could just call out to that, or on and on and on, right? Or like. Obviously commercially, Anthropic isn't incented to have me offload tokens somewhere else. But it does seem like you could categorize, this is a really dumb AI thing. We need artificial just gets it doneness, not intelligence. And so I can send it to like GPT-3, and it's going to like, figure out if it should be there, or there, right? And sort that out for me. But I don't know. I haven't really researched much how to pull that into the stuff I do.
Well, and there's a lot of good models that you can download now, open models and things you can run locally. Olama is a good example. And, back the AI Tools Lab, before I decided to roll my own, I was kind of fooling around with this stuff using a platform called N8N, which is a workflow tool that you can get a bunch of things to work together, stitch together, agentic, and that really like opened up a lot of doors, I think, for me, just understanding like what the different models can do and what different use cases make sense, and kind of doing it in an automated way, running locally, where it's just not like churning through money basically, or credits on Anthropic. It's just running off a local model on my machine, and it's just like processing overnight, unless it runs into a problem. That's been kind of fun to just, see something go do that. But I have yet to really come up with a use case personally to like have some, AI processing personal things for me in the background while I sleep. But
yeah. Like, as listeners and Whitney know, like I play D&D with AI stuff. And so there's all these scenarios where you're going through like complicated Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Right. And you could see that like, I don't need like I don't need, I don't even know how much, $2 billion worth of AI horsepower to sort this out. Right. Like all I need is like, just go kind of like search something and make it up. Right. Like just something very simple. And so like, that does seem like being able to spread like one call over that, or even do something locally would be fun. I was as excited as one gets about these things. I was interested when, Apple like bundles some mysterious AI stuff into the iPhone and the Mac. And it's like really hard to actually do something with. Like you can go through Apple shortcuts to do something with it. But I guess you could program something in Swift. Maybe that's the answer. But like, it's not like there to mess around with. But so there's like this thing in Apple land you could do something with, but it's tedious and not very open.
Did you say you're excited when things like Apple add AI functionality? Because it annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's so it could be annoying, but I get excited because it's like a new thing to do something with. Like I don't know. It, like an analogy is like I go to a bookshop and what were we talking about earlier that was kind of like this? Oh, where you have to stop yourself from indulging in something, whether that's checking your enterprise Slack or going to a bookstore and you're like, I think I would want to read these 50 books, so I'm going to buy them, right? And so it's a similar thing of like, oh, there's this new functionality in computer land. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do something with it or what I would do with it, but it's fun. I could do something with it, right? And so like if AI is already interesting and then like in Apple land, now they have basically like a model running locally that if you know the right little nook and cranny to go to, you can interact with. Sure. That seems like something fun.
I don't like when it's thrust upon me, like when I try to like just Google something and I get an AI response when I'm looking for a Google response.
Yeah. Well, then thankfully in the Apple case, as I've complained about, my complaint is your benefit that it's very hard to get to.
Good.
It's the opposite of in your face. It's hidden behind your back, being elusive.
That's what I want in my life, sneakiness.
Absolutely. So let's see. I have one more question before we wrap up, and back to the DevRel stuff. I'm curious. So you've worked at various size companies, and all the way up to like I think Microsoft is probably the megaest company you worked for. But like, so what do you think? When it comes to DevRel, what is it that a big company like Microsoft can do that even a medium-sized company like Datadog and especially smaller companies can't do?
Probably the biggest thing is break off different, very individualized roles. Like some of the things I do now at Datadog in terms of building tools for our team is stuff I was doing also at Microsoft because there's just so much to do and kind of just needed somebody. That we needed developers and we needed operations people on our DevRel team, and it really like made me realize like there's a lot of hats even within developer relations and within advocacy, and you don't have to be on stage and still be in this like sort of a role. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the main thing is like things can be really divided up, and you can really get focused.
Just specialize.
Yeah, very very specialized. You can go from I've always been more of the T-shaped person, and like you can start just being nope, I'm just this, and that's totally fine. And actually, people enjoy sort of that once they've found that. I don't have that in me. Like I'm too ADHD or something. Like I need to move on to new things fairly regularly. So maybe that's another big thing over there too, is like even once you get into the company, you could switch, if like I didn't want to be in advocacy anymore, they are happy to see you move over into project management or technical program management or something kind of adjacent. So yeah, I don't know. There's more, it's at a bigger company. There's a little bit more opportunities to kind of shift around. There's probably more pressure in terms of delivering and kind of living up to that like corporate I don't know what the word is, hustle or
benchmark.
The hustle is really more of the startup stuff, which is kind of the other side of the spectrum too, where you just get so busy with things like it's hard to know what do you is there a strategy here? Are you just like going all the time? So yeah, you can be more strategic in the bigger companies. I've found that kind of going from the startup world over to the mega side and now into Datadog, which is still really a large global company. It's more, suited for my kind of speed. The hierarchy, kind of the org chart at the company, I think we're in a good spot. We're in engineering, we're all engineers at heart, and we just, I think we feel like we're in the right place there. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm gonna have to think about this distinction you're making me think of between, we'll call it the startup hustle and the enterprise hustle. There is, it'd be easy on the startup side to be like, oh, we do a lot of work, but it matters and you have to have results. Right. But I think big companies like results too. as far as I can tell. There is a different. It's almost like this is, I don't know what kind of, if it's laziness or just sort of like thinking on behalf of individuals, but it does seem like there's an interesting thing when you get to a really big company that if you relax and enjoy the benefits of scale and success, that's not good. You have to like show that you're always hustling and working and doing stuff and busy, even though what's the point of being a gigantic, big, successful company? Mm-hmm. Versus like, in a startup, you have to relax, or as we were talking about earlier, you're going to burn yourself out. So you also like have to balance this out. But there's a different kind of hustling in those two areas, which I'm not sure what to do with.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, I've seen my share of, when they say rest, invest folks, but not in DevRel, like you really can't hide somewhere, and it's not like we're all really trying to set new bars that are just unreachable. We're all very, I think, driven people, and goals, are kind of how we operate. And I'm always trying to outdo myself a little bit more every year in some way, challenge myself a different way. And, that's not something everybody wants to do or even is built to do, I think. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of my peers who aren't in this industry, and they don't know, they're like, that sounds crazy to me to be like, have that kind of, but also it doesn't feel competitive in any kind of way either.
No.
Like we're all just very like, we just love doing what we do.
I think my identity is wrapped up in a little bit. And I think that's normal for DevRel. Like you were saying, how important it is to be genuine. Like when you are so genuine in your job, then your job and your identity, at least a little bit, for better or worse, get mixed up together.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, like the currency in DevRel and advocacy is trust. And, like it doesn't matter who you work for and who you think you're advocating for. If you're not trusted because of whatever reason, then all of a sudden your value as a person in the space as an advocate, as a developer relations, just isn't what it was. And you can't get that back from people either. So you have to be very careful about what you're advocating for, truly, I think is what it boils down to for me. And when you live by that, I think that just helps you as a profession, too, because I love Datadog. I hope I stay here forever, but who knows where things take me. I thought I was going to be at Microsoft forever too. So I think people respect, the things I try to share and coach and teach, and it'll follow me no matter where I go. And it's up to me to like keep that in shape or to ruin it.
Well, you seem to be on a path to not ruining it. So
hopefully not intentionally.
So far, things are panning out. And if anything bad happens, you can always just vibe code a new company you can work for. That would be the ultimate vibe coding thing, is like, write me an enterprise that I can go work for that pays me well. I'm going to go get lunch. I'll be back soon.
Yep. As a service. That's the new as a service.
Exactly. Well, as a service, I think we can wrap up this episode now. It's been a wonderful, a fun conversation, a good service we've provided. Do you have, we mentioned lots of the stuff that you have, but what is there one central place, a homepage on the World Wide Web or other thing you would point people towards if they want to see all of the stuff?
Yeah, probably just jasonhand.com. I try to keep that up to date with whatever, I got going on. All the projects I mentioned. I did a bunch of, like everybody else, bunch of vibe coding this summer. So you can get over into my GitHub from there. There's a ton of fun stuff I've been working on there too. So yeah, my website's probably the best place.
And I think it's well color coordinated with the room that you're currently in too.
Yeah.
Like all the color palettes are very much shared. So that's good stuff.
Thank you.
So this has been another episode of Software Defined Interviews. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, including more things than just jasonhand.com, you can go to softwaredefinedinterviews.com/115 and see those links and other episodes that we've done. And we have a Slack channel as well that you can join that has the Software Defined Talk community in there as well. You should jump on there. I was just thinking recently, because we don't pay for it, conversations disappear after 90 days or something, which we don't really do anything with. Maybe it's more sad than utilitarian. But speaking of things that aren't sad, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.